Remember that they're changing my voice. Now keep in mind, gang stalking is about reinforcing reproductive control. So when we look at white people, white ladies and gentlemen, Jewish ladies and gentlemen, their cultures are the main cultures that are dominating society. It doesn't take a genius to see that. There's churches, mosques, and synagogues everywhere. It's called Judeo-Christian culture, so you got to put the emphasis on the synagogues and the churches. And they have been doing things in a way to try to get people to date the indigenous people, the minorities who are more like them when they're from that race. For example, if you're a black female who's attractive, they want you to date the Carlton types, the Will Smiths, right? The black people who are Freemasons, who are really into Western culture. It's not just the economic system, because most people naturally aren't stupid enough to marry someone for money. I mean, that takes a lot of conditioning, a lot of dumbing down. Can you imagine if you married, if you're a guy, if you married Ursula for her money? We can, just have a little bit less stuff and marry, an attractive female. Okay, can you imagine if you had a daughter who married Judas for his money instead of, Jesus or John the Baptist? That's ridiculous, right? You'd be mad, right? So it doesn't come naturally to us. And I'm not someone who would ever do that. And so what's happening is they're trampling people, mind, body, soul, and spirit. If you're really into martial arts on a deep level, monotheistic especially, you see it clearly. The spirit of black people is not Freemasonry. It is not the military or police or corporations or Boy Scouts. Okay? It is not being a house Negro. The spirit of black people is African. It is African martial arts in its center, in its core. Narmer, Shaka Zulu. Okay? And where Mandela and Martin Luther King were like them is where a lot of people assign their respect, because it was reminiscent of the fair martial art king. Kings wear a sword. They don't have a compass and a trowel. They have a sword. Because the king is meant to be the top martial artist in reality, with moral precision intact. So we see over time, right, that you have a choice. Either you shrink to fit and you keep your head down, as they say, or become controlled opposition, pretend to care, which is arguably worse. And then you're being trampled. Your offspring is being trampled. Either you chose to be a token minority, okay, and you reproduce with women you have no business reproducing with, who are dumb enough to sleep with the oppressor, so you're not worthy enough for them and they're not worthy enough for you. Just two traitors having little traitors. Or you become some kind of, guy who works at Burger King. And again, I have nothing against people who work at these places, other than the fact they're cheap, man, my right to leave. But you become some kind of go along to get along, keep your head down kind of person, who's not so outspoken as controlled opposition or otherwise. And you settle for an unattractive, argumentative female. Maybe she's from the ghetto. Maybe she's a rich brat whose other people don't like because of certain qualities she has. And your genes are reduced and your spirit's reduced. Mind, body, and soul, you're being trampled. You're reproducing and living with some obnoxious demon that is not good enough for you. And you're in the repetition of your oppressor's spirit. That filthy Babylonian spirit that enslaves, murders, drugs, what have you. So you have to rise up as a lion or become a kind of toxic worm and watch your offspring become toxic worms more and more every generation. Having grandkids becomes a curse. Having great grandkids, living long enough to see your great grandkids becomes a curse, because you see your failure, your generational failure in them. You see that the insult starts when they oppress. They could easily adjust the tax rates, end homelessness, child hunger, create opportunities. Okay, but they send out, their controlled opposition shells on the left and their open oppressors on the right to make sure it doesn't play out that way. A concerted effort by the oppressor, everyone knows it. Everyone knows it. So they're insulting you. And everyone knows it. I mean, if they didn't know it, it's still insulting. They're oppressing and insulting. They're adding insult to injury. They're adding insult to oppression. And then they provoke people with SOPs. All the SOP person is doing is zooming in on the pre-existing disrespect. A black man's disrespecting society. So when the SOP guy calls me the N-word undercover, it's just kind of magnifying and expressing that pre-existing oppression and disrespect. And then the people on social media acting like they give a shit, say, no hate speech, okay? But I need a platform to respond to their collective racism, oppression, and evil, and not your controlled opposition, Greek theater arts, Freemasonic bullshit. Not your political parties. Not commenting and pretending that some bootlicking coward is responding for me or something. Especially as the top martial artist ever. It's a proportional response. And they're hiding behind the state because their spirit is inferior. I promise to God, they are hiding behind the state and playing stupid about it because their spirit is inferior. And my top martial arts challenge overkills what you know already. If they had a superior race, culture, and spirit, would they hide behind the state and act like fucking cowards and bitches? No. That is what the inferior do. And I'll give you $1,000 if you can prove me wrong. There is no other way to look at it. There's no other way it could be. And it is unnatural for the inferior spirits to rule over the superior and to try to screen out the best of them. That is sick, pathetic, and to hell with their spirits for that.